Welcome to MarketSnap's daily market rundown. Alibaba surged 11% today, stealing the spotlight in a session that was otherwise dominated by a geopolitical shockwave. But that single move tells only part of the story. We're unpacking BABA first, then the session's bigger themes. It was a wild Wednesday. The Dow Jones took a real beating, dropping over 1% as President Trump declared the Iran ceasefire over, sending oil prices spiking and volatility through the roof. The S&P 500 and Russell 2000 also finished in the red, but the Nasdaq managed to get a small gain, thanks to a late-day bounce in some key tech names. The VIX, the market's fear gauge, jumped nearly 5%, a clear sign that the risk-off switch was flipped. So, let's look at the final scores. The Dow closed down 576 points to 52,348. The S&P 500 slipped 0.28% to 7,482. The Russell 2000 fell nearly 1% to 2,956. But the Nasdaq, bucking the trend, finished up 0.2% at 25,870. The big story on the winners board was Alibaba. The Chinese e-commerce giant jumped over 11% on a double dose of good news, a temporary legal reprieve from a Pentagon blacklist, and optimism ahead of its earnings report. It was a classic relief rally that made it the standout performer of the day. On the flip side, the losers list was a who's who of financials and consumer names. American Express, Capital One, and Booking Holdings all took a hit, dropping between 3% and 5%. This sell-off reflects a growing concern that a prolonged Iran conflict will keep inflation sticky, which is bad news for consumer spending and credit. Looking at the weekly performance, the pain is concentrated in the semiconductor space. SanDisk, Teradyne, KLA Corporation, and Lam Research are all down over 15% in the last week alone. This is the AI trade, unwinding in real time as investors question the massive capital expenditures with no clear short-term return on investment. Among the megacaps, the action was mixed. Nvidia managed to bounce back over 3%, finding some support after a rough few weeks. Apple was up nearly 1% on the back of a massive $30 billion chip deal with Broadcom. But Tesla continued its slide, falling over 2%, as the market focused on its long-term AI ambitions rather than its core auto business. The macro picture was dominated by two things: Iran and the Fed. Oil prices surged 6% after Trump's comments and the cancellation of Iran's oil sales license. This has the market spooked because it rekindles the inflation narrative. The FOMC minutes from the June meeting confirmed that a few officials saw a case for a rate hike, and the majority remained concerned about upside risk to inflation from the war, tariffs, and the AI build-out. This is the key tension for long-term investors. The IMF even chimed in, saying the Iran war will leave an inflation scar on the U.S. through 2027. Meanwhile, the AI trade is showing signs of fatigue. Over two-thirds of tech stocks are at least 20% off their highs. The market is starting to separate the AI winners from the losers, and the easy money has been made. Looking ahead, Q2 earnings season is about to kick into high gear. This week, we have reports from General Mills and Constellation Brands. Next week, the big banks like JP Morgan and Wells Fargo will set the tone. The focus will be on consumer health, loan growth, and how companies are navigating this higher-cost environment. You can find exclusive earnings transcript summaries on MarketSnap. Sector-wise, the rotation is brutal. Technology, basic materials, and industrials are the worst-performing sectors over the last week, all down over 2%. The only bright spot? Energy, which is up over 1% as oil prices rally. This is the classic inflation hedge trade in action. A few other notable headlines. Mastech jumped 6% on a $1.65 billion deal to boost its AI data center push. Allianz is cutting up to 1,800 jobs as it turns to AI. And Blue Origin is seeking a $10 billion funding round at a $130 billion valuation. That's a wrap for today's stock market summary from MarketSnap. Thanks for tuning in. It was a day where geopolitics overrode everything, but the long-term themes of AI rotation and inflation are still the ones that will define the next few quarters. Stay engaged with MarketSnap summaries and SWOT analyses to navigate these choppy waters. We'll see you tomorrow.